revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary.
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Where there's people, there is power. Justice in our time. Good evening, everyone. We're back. Second video of the new year. We'll be going to, start where we ended up 2 weeks ago about violence against women and girls. And we're going to work in the Brooklyn Beckham saga with his family and why adult children are not willing to make amends with their parents when there's perceived wrongdoing growing up. And this seems to be a rising, epidemic of adult children not wanting to deal with their parents once they get to a certain age because of slights and misdeeds of the past. So we're going to chop that up today. And I'd like to round up with, let's start off with you, cuz. What do you think of this saga? Since you're a Man United man.
Well, I don't know too much about the ins and outs of what's going on with that family. Like, rich white people problems is not my problems. But for me, like, in terms of just like outside looking in with parents and stuff, I think once you get to a certain age, I think parents need to understand, like, you're adults now, so you can't control the narrative like you used to. And I think that's what Beckham and the Beckhams are finding it difficult with Brooklyn because he's kind of outspoken. But I think a lot of parents just need to just understand that, obviously that's your kids, but they're adults now, so you kind of have to treat people differently. But also, again, I don't know the ins and outs of their dynamics. Is it something to do with the wife or something? Or is it something to do with the wife? And didn't she date the brother or something previously? So I can kind of understand why Victoria might be moving a bit mad with that. But again, it's his own man. If he decided that that's his wife now, you got to just accept that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you do. I'm sure when they were younger, they wouldn't want their parents telling, "Oh, don't marry a Spice Girl, David. She's too out there. She's not, demure enough, not conservative enough."
Yeah, exactly. I think so. Alex was against that relationship anyway, and he still did what he did, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's odd that if you, fast forward 20 years, you have a problem with all that.
Yeah, exactly.
I always find the hypocrisy of parents, even though I'm one myself, is you want your children to progress, be their own person, but at the same time you want kind of control when they're a certain age. I can understand if he's making a serious ricket, but I said let him experience it or her experience it, and then they'll find out from actually lived experience rather than you trying to tell them. Because some people, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Some people only have to learn for actually going through it themselves, the process. You can't shield them from everything.
Yeah, exactly.
But I always tell kids as well at the same time, when someone knows better and knows more, listen and try to implement it because you might avoid certain trauma and problems. It's like boxing, isn't it? I said, if you stand straight up right now, I used to tell like my godbrother, move your head. There's no point in just trying to catch and block. Move your head, Rasta, and use your feet. First line of defense is your feet. So if you swerve it, you won't have to get them head trauma. So that's what I tell the youths. If you don't want to feel that, then avoid it. Learn from, you don't always have to have personal experience to learn. You can see other people say, yeah, I don't like that. It's like with our uncle, with our oldest uncle on granddad's side. Because when I said, tell listen, you see, from you, I always made sure I had my own place when I left home. So no woman could throw my clothes out in the street until I have to leave. You see, that's the whole reason why I always kept my own place. And even though we weren't talking, my godmother must have sent it to him and said, "Rah, Sean, was he talking about me?" I said, "Yeah, of course it is." They said, "From 7." Said, "From that age you thought about that?" I said, "Yeah, from 7 years old." Because I said, I saw it happen to my dad twice. And then from 7 years old, I see you keep moving. I used to ask you why. I never forget that time when we played football at Battersea when I was Sarai's age. And I said, yeah, I'm never going to put up with that. I'm always going to have my own place. I said, even though I broke that rule, I said, I still had my own place for like 20 years.
Yeah.
before I moved in with anyone. Yeah. Yeah. So I said, and I always make sure in my back pocket there's certain money that if they come out, I can go on straight on my own, even if it means private renting. None of this going back to boomeranging back to parents or sleeping on park benches. Having to get a laugh after me and I'm there, I'm in dire straits. So I said, yeah, I tell the youths that as well. Pay attention to the elders and learn what you can and implement it. Don't just think, oh well, yeah, that's them and I'm different. I said, no, no, Rasta. You're a human being with limited resources with two hands and 2 feet. Yeah.
For
And
sure.
what is going on now is going on in the past. It's just the methods are different. The mediums are different. And I said, yeah, make sure you learn. But you have to balance it. I notice people, they forget the balance. It's either too far to the left or too far to the right. Mm. And Kingsley, what do you think? King, is he there? Yo. Oh, he's not feeling still. Yeah, so going back to 2 weeks ago with the violence against women and girls, the Sally's had a few shorts and some of them have gone viral and that around what we discussed. And she's saying that we should persist in showing the truth around the figures that they try to trot out to the public. I know you liked what she was saying. I remember you actually asked her a question that time, because about
Yeah,
what's,
yeah, she was
and I was shocked the way
insightful.
you came in. Go on.
No, she was so insightful, man. I learned so much from her. So I even had to go and check out some of her conversations she's had on YouTube. So yeah, man, she was very good.
Mm. So you see, going forwards, you think that do we need to have more behavioral changes, courses for young boys and teenagers at school, or do you think it should be a thing for both genders, like what I think? Both genders should
Definitely,
go for
definitely
respect
both,
training.
definitely both genders. Because
Mm.
as Sally was saying that, like some women obviously lie, and it was like, why should you just believe a woman straight away? Obviously, some obviously do go through those experiences, and we can't obviously neglect those. But it's a very dangerous game we're playing if we're just gonna be blaming boys and just for being boys.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a very dangerous game. So we need to obviously look at both genders and look at making sure that the education is there for them to understand what is right and wrong.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. That's how it was when I was going secondary school in the 90s. We used to have physical, social health education, PSHE. Yeah.
Yeah,
And they were telling you, oh, this is what you do when you start to get into romantic relationships. This is how you treat the person. This is about consent, even how to use Durex, a condom. So I said, what happened? Don't they do that anymore? Because my kids still they say they have PSHE. So I said, and RE still. So what's going on in them lessons?
Well,
Yeah.
they're
you
pushing
didn't
a
RE.
different.
Oh, go on, Crystal, go on.
No, well, in them lessons, I think they're pushing a different agenda now, isn't it?
That's true.
So I don't know how old you guys are, but back in my day, I'm 86. That whole, the banana, the condom, and teaching us about consent. But now they don't do it in schools. Like I'm not against the LGBTQIA whatever,
Mm.
but they are focusing on that. They're allowing they're talking about trans rights and things like that. So the whole society is just a mess, to be honest. I wasn't there 2 weeks ago, so I don't really know what you touched on with women and violence.
It's
But I
online, it's
do
online.
agree with. Oh, was it online?
Yeah. I sent it to you. I thought I sent it to you before, but I sent it to you so you can review it. Mm.
Okay, but I do agree with Jason and yourself about both genders need to be educated. But raising awareness, though, okay, you raise the awareness, you teach. What happens next?
Mm. Oh, in terms of practicality.
Yeah.
Well, you can't really control people once they leave school unless they get in trouble by the law. They're pulled up for convictions, yeah, or charged. You can't really monitor and control people then. So they're saying if they teach kids in school while they're still young
Mhm,
and impressionable, they can socialize them into the right way of behaving. But so if you leave
mhm,
it only for young boys and male teenagers, yeah. So what happens? You could breed more resentment. This is what I'm trying to say. See,
mhm,
like with the domestic abuse pilot I'm going to be running 2 Wednesdays from now,
mhm.
they were like, oh, I don't think you should have men and women in the same spaces during that course. especially a lot of the Karens. So I said, why
Mhm.
not? I said, you know how much women behind the scenes without being public? It said that they think that's a good way, so they can discuss certain things. So that's why you see the rise of these kind of where people used to go nightclub and raving. Now they're a bit older, our generation, like the 80s born. They're
Mhm.
going to things now like debate corner where they have background music, yeah, a bit of light food and beverages, and then they discuss issues of the day or current affairs and ask people their opinion, what they think about that and what would they do. So that has become a big thing now, even in America. So I said, these things are good. So I said, why can't you have younger people partaking in that as well? Yeah. I said, if you're just doing, said, oh, you're basically born the wrong gender, you're a walking creep, a potential rapist or abuser. And then you're putting the halo effect on women, like they're morally superior. I said, there's a physical strength disparity and more aggression. Yeah, definitely with men. But I said, coercive control, that's well known to be a female trait because obviously they're not going to really kick our heads in, are they? Or for us.
Hold on. Touch on that. Coercive control is a
Yeah,
female thing.
coercive control. Yeah, basically manipulation. That's what they mean when they say that manipulation. So I said, and women, from what I've seen, obviously I can't speak for everyone, but
Mm,
usually mentally tough and can multitask and get on with things. Yeah,
mm,
even when they're upset. They said men kind of isolate and implode. Yeah, or we don't see them. They said, "Right, what happened to my man?" Yeah.
mm,
Now I said, so coercive control said it opens up females to convictions that maybe before they said, oh, that's just a thing. You got to be stronger mentally. You can't let them, coerce or manipulate you around your children or being in the home or doing certain domestic tasks. Yeah.
mm.
Or insulting you with their mouth and you may be upsetting them. So if you do that, you're basically saying that women and girls are superior to men and boys. So I said it again, when you got incels, and people that isolated in society don't have a partner, or they're growing up and they're trying to get into the romantic aspect of life. They haven't got the social skills and how to navigate that, and then they're vicious and venomous about being told that they're no good, and their only value and utility is if how much money they make and how hard they can work. So we never tell women and girls that. We tell them Princess and Walt Disney, covered marshmallows. You need to be rescued and looked after. Like they're not adults as well, or they're not going to grow up to be adults too. So I said, you're going to breed resentment and create more misogyny, not reduce it. And it's patronizing to tell a 7, 8 year old who hasn't got a Scooby about life that they're potential incels, or they need to respect girls more when you never know how their parents are parenting in the home. You don't know what kind of company they keep in their social circuits, social circles out in real life. So there's always people that are wayward in both genders. There's always people morally corrupt in both genders. It's just that one is kind of said, oh, you know what? They've got mental health issues. They look at what happened in their past. And when it's a boy child, they're rascal, they're
Mm,
erratic, they're a threat. And so then a lot of the time, it's the fear, especially when they become adolescents, because of the physical strength and the size. That's what it is. And so these tropes, if we was to do it, say, around ethnicity, you say it's racism. So I said, so if it's around gender, then what do you think is going to happen? You're going to have a two-tier justice system, two-tier education system that's already there. And then you're going to get more of the men and boys that you don't like. Because a lot of women, they don't like simps and men that are not capable and assertive. They don't want to have to be thinking for a grown man and be looking after them like a baby. That's what you're encouraging with this gentle parenting absent of consequences for misbehavior. And then if their parents do turn up, you're saying they're abusive because they're too harsh. So where do you
mm,
stop? And they said, and a lot of these boys that come from these homes, a lot of them single mothers, bringing up these toe rags, and then they despise them and said, "Oh, look at the kind of boy child you're bringing up." I said, "Yeah, but then look, where's the men in the home then to when they get big and too strong for you to really put the foot down on them and make them listen?" Obviously, don't always,
exactly.
but
It all
it's
goes
easy.
back to the father. Sorry. I'm gonna be, yeah, I'm gonna be biased. And I'm a single parent myself, and I know for a fact if I had that energy, that masculine energy in the home, I think my children, particularly my son,
Mm,
would have had a different outlook on life. And to be honest with you, we get a lot of the blame, single parents, single mothers.
mm,
Um, and it all leads back to the dad. You know, where's the father? You guys, well, not you guys, some men, you know, on the street with their friends, shot
mm,
in, you know. And
mm. It's true.
what did I see on Instagram the other day? The absent parents always gets the respect when the one that stays at home gets disrespected. I don't understand that.
Mm.
You know, so yeah, it just goes back to the dads not being in the home. You lot don't understand the energy and the knowledge that you guys bring. You know, it's like with a dog. Have you seen with a dog, right? If you're raising a dog, a woman
Mm.
can try and discipline a dog, but it's not as effective as a man's voice. Same with little kids. When the dad speaks, the child will fix up. When the woman speaks, it takes a bit longer. I don't know if you found that.
Now, to be fair, I've seen a mixed bag with that, you know. Remember, I told you how my mother was. My mum was the harsh disciplinarian. She's the one that
Mhm.
used to, cane us, lash us if we step out of line. We knew that if we won 2 times, they said, yeah, we're gonna get lashed, you know. We used to try and hide.
Yeah,
So
but
my dad
can
was
I say,
actually the more
Sean,
meek one. He was actually the more,
why
even though, go on.
but why did she have why did she feel the need to be that way? I don't want to go into your private life, but
That's all right.
how was
Remember, as long as you don't say any names, it's all. It's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
mm,
Okay. So why did your mum feel the need to because okay, so us women
mm,
when we feel safe, we'll go into our feminine energy as long as we're
mm,
being led by the right man, right? So why
mm.
did your mother feel the need to be the disciplinary. Oh, you know what I mean? I can't talk today.
Yeah, of
Sorry,
course,
and be so
disciplinarian.
strict. Yeah. So
Yeah.
why,
Uh,
if you came from a two-parent home?
yeah, exactly. But both of them did. But what I think with my mother, she had a nature. My mother's nature was war and aggression. That's the way she was. So even before she was with my dad, even when I speak to her father, my grandfather, he used to say, "Boy, the girl mouth hot, and she thinks she can fight anybody." But I said, "Weren't your mum like that, granddad? Mama Tora, great grandmother." He said, "Yes, she was." You see, so
Um,
these people say that obviously you have these generalizations, but they don't fit everything. It's not a snapback. One size don't fit all. You see, some of it is fitted caps. Now, my dad was in there. My dad had a serious temper as well, but he had a longer fuse. It'd take longer for him to go off. But the thing is with him, he remembered the things that you've done that he's let you off from before, and he would take it out on you. So a
mm-mm,
couple of times when my mum's encouraging to be us, she would have to try and stop him, and he would end up in fights. Which said, Raymond, you've gone too far.
mm,
So yeah, so it's mad. Yeah, so you got to be careful with all them things there. With when it comes to the intergender, and it's not always single mums that cause these things. Yeah, it's not always the dads are not always assertive, even if they're in the home. And as you know, in our community, especially in the West Indies, from what I see, a lot of the matriarchs, especially in back in the day, where the grandmother used to look after the kids and both parents went out to work,
mm,
or a lot of them would come to England and they'd have Jamaican children and then have children over here, and that would lead to disparity as well. And again, matriarch-led households, even if the dad was about, because a lot of the time the dad was working maybe double jobs or night shift. So they weren't, even though they're in the home, they weren't really parenting the children. So therefore, the mother had to lead, especially my mother. So, and she liked it that way as well. She didn't want my dad interfering in day-to-day life in there, apart from being a disciplinarian and bringing in the money. Yeah, because she didn't think he was capable enough to do a lot of the domestic stuff and to mind us day to day. And then
okay.
he got used to that pattern. So it's not always like that. It's not always like that. And look, each one of me and my siblings got into trouble, regardless that we had a two-parent home. Me after I left home, but my brother and sister while they're at home. Mm. Yeah, so yeah. Remember, even though we have these generalizations, it doesn't mean that it's always down to the single-parent homes. Because I've seen two-parent households where the child is out of hand and wayward. I've seen single-parent households with single fathers and single mothers, children wayward and out of hand. I've seen people come from care homes and have counseling and psychological briefing and extra help at school, still out of hand. It's just that they're saying statistically, obviously, with most single parent households being 9 out of 10 times female, is that said this is where a lot of the troubles are. Mm. So they're doing it by the data, as they say, and the research. So that's why I think online, obviously, people jump on that and said, yeah, this is what it is. But I tell a lot of men, why aren't you in there then? Why did you break up? I hope you ain't breaking up over foolishness. Sometimes you have to tough it out. No, I'm not putting up with that. They're getting on my nerves. I don't like them. She don't respect me. You can't have a reasonable relationship. Or should they expect too much of the materialistic? Yeah. And then the women said, oh, they're no good. They're jelly back man. They're not capable. So I'm not letting no comedian or jester lead me. I'm have more sense. And then some of them said, look, I can't trust them, Sean, to even change the child's nappy. I said, what? I said, you can't be, not in this modern era. They said, no, Sean, some of these things still go on.
Mhm.
Yeah, I said, what? He said, the dad can't change his child nappy. Yeah. Or they said, when they do have them, they said farming them off to their mother if they don't live in home. So I said, I've seen that. I had a few male friends that, but they said, Sean, why are you going out this weekend? I said, yeah, I got my son, so we're not going out. Oh, dear, give him to your partner or your mum and let's go out. I said, no, I'm not doing that because I want him to know when they grow up, it's not, oh, convenient McDonald's, dad, or we just go to a trip out and here's some money and a PlayStation or Xbox, and then that's all right. I said, I want interaction so I can pass on my ideology to him and socialize him into the Buchanan ways. Mm. But someone said, no, why are you doing that? I said, no wonder why get laugh at us. You want to say you're daddy dearest and you can't have your children overnight. Or if you have a place, you haven't got a spare room or a sofa bed you can put in the living room. I remember one woman said, Sean, you have your own clothes here that I was dealing with. He said, yeah, why? I thought that's a standard thing. Because otherwise you'll always be relying on the mother to pack bag and all that. No, that's odd. I don't know. I said, nah, that can't be. But yeah, I hear a lot of them. So it's usually depend on the experiences why people say these things. Personal experience, it becomes people's reality, isn't it? So when you've had the male figures in the home, they said are basically not either not present or when they leave, they don't have much to do with their kids. What would you recommend as a remedy to solve that situation and make sure there's more households where there's functional, at least functional co-parenting, even if there's relationship breakdown?
Um, to be honest, I'm from a different era. I kind of blame society, social media. I've just got back from Gambia, and one thing I like about Gambia, they have the unity. If one family member has a problem, all the aunties, the uncles, the cousins get involved.
Mm,
Now, I didn't have that support where if I'm going through, problems with my children, I have a lot of people had a lot of people against what I would say for my children. And there's no book for parenting, isn't it? It's
no,
just,
there's no.
the basics like right and wrong. But I've
Mm,
always wanted to know, Sean, like, I feel that you're a good dad, considering what you went through with your parents.
mm,
How did you then, because you could have been like your father, isn't it? And the
yeah, of
curse would have
course.
continued. How did you break that?
No, for me personally, it's character. And I watched a lot of He-Man and Thundercats growing up. Yeah. Yeah, because to be fair, I used to get a lot of lessons from them things I used to watch as a kid. I said,
Hmm.
yeah, I want to be like that person, like Luke Skywalker, um, He-Man, Prince Adam of Eternia, Lionel in Thundercats, because they in those days the cartoons used to have a lot of morals to the story.
Hmm.
And then I still like, at Sunday school, I still like the Bible stories around Abraham and Elijah, Moses. So I said, yeah, these are serious men. And then my granddad Thompson, he was a serious man. My maternal grandfather, he was a serious man, and he was an example. To be fair, all of us. So I kind of based it there, and then obviously internal mechanisms, the things that I gravitated towards was like, yeah, when I grow up, I want my kids to be like my little army, like more of me, where I could rule the world and things like that. So I always had that. But where people get disheartened by life and kind of think, oh, those are fantasies, I try to implement them in reality. So, like for instance, when I told you when I was sick and people said, Sean, you need to rest. Even my mother told me, said you should rest. Why are you going to a tribunal for his educational healthcare plan when his mum is all right? And I said, tell my mum, don't you realize not all mums are about it? which she found, oh, how can you say it's true though? No, you just said it yourself. Why ain't she going? I'm having to go 3 weeks after brain surgery with my nose still bleeding. I was flushing with that bottle thing with the saline fluid. Yeah. Yeah. I'd been out of hospital only 2 weeks. Yeah. So she said, yeah, that's the thing. So I said, yeah, look, you don't want to answer your own question because you know how it makes you feel because you internalize it. I said, yeah, I'm doing things for my children, mum, that you wouldn't even do for me. And that's what he stopped saying as well. So yeah, that's why it's got a character. It's got to be an internal thing, and then obviously living by the principles that you say you believe in. A lot of people have these serious ideological or beliefs, but then when it comes to show and tell, you find them out. It's similar to like fighting, isn't it? When we used to do the boxing and the little street fight when we were younger, certain men, when we used to go into say, raw, they look tasty, and the way they talk with the conviction, the belief in their eyes, and I realized, raw, a lot of them are delusional. So when we used to get in the mixer now, the backside used to squeak. A couple licks now and touch and go is a bit of struggle for maybe 30 seconds. And then they'll be on their backside like, oh, they don't want to fight no more. So I said a lot of it temper, but there's no root to it. And that's where I get with a lot of people when it comes to parenting and working and doing things in life. They have all these pipe dreams and actions, but there's no real determination or belief. And then any kind of setback shows that the frailties. And I think you get that with people in all aspects of life, but especially with parenting. Because my dad used to think he was supreme because he stayed with my mother, when him and his parents divorced when he was, 9, 10. I said, but dad, you got hang-ups. Your dad looked after you when your mum ran off with her fancy man. And then because as soon as she came back, he gave you lot to her, you're there holding him up. So what man in them days used to look after 5 children on their own and still work as a carpenter? Said you got to rate your dad.
My granddad did. My
Yeah, there
granddad
you go.
raised, 4 kids by himself.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Now, to be fair, my granddad only looked after them like 3 years like that. But I said it was full time and he was just working as a carpenter as well. He had 2 big houses in Peckham and Hollygrove. I never forget when my dad showed me. He said, Jesus, dad, them houses now are worth over £1 million each. And he had 2 of them in the 60s. So what happened to them? How did granddad lose them? Woman troubles. Woman filling up his head. See, so that's where he was mentally for it. Yeah. Yeah, so this is what happens. And then my dad's got hang-ups about it. So because he stayed married with my mother, I said, yeah, but dad, as I got older, I said, you know why you done that? It's the best one of the best decisions in your life. You know a certain woman ain't going to put up with your style, so you stay with what you know. And you had all your kids with her. So it made sense. You weren't going to do much without my mother, were you? Same with mum. I said she could never mind these houses without your income. Because even though you're lapsed with applying, once you're in work, they used to call him like the golden arm. So my dad was a serious grafter. Man go work if he's sick. Man always on time, overtime. Yeah. So he was serious. That's one of his virtues. Serious grafter. And when he's in work, he stay in work. He find it hard to find it without help from me and my mother and some of his friends, like filling out application, doing interviews. But once he's in there, listen, Rasta, he's a grafter. And obviously my mum didn't like that because a lot of the people she came up with, they're the same people that had relationships as them as teenagers at the time. The men would fall by the wayside or they break up. So obviously to their circle, they're like, rah, they made it. How'd they make it like that? Imagine they've been together from 1978 and we all mash up how much different partners since then, and they're still together. But I used to warn them and say, listen, if you want to walk the path that my parents walked, you're going to have to put up with serious shenanigans, mistreatment, emotional and physical. Yeah. Gambling, serious arguments. Yeah. I said, and they made it through thick and thin. But a lot of you don't want to get a taste of that. You think it's all cotton candy and Walt Disney. That's not how it works. In my life, anyway. I said, I don't know about other people. Because look, when I dealt with my wife now, and I saw her parents, I said, what? Your parents don't beat. From that era, born in the 50s, they don't beat their kids. They're so copacetic. They don't really shout and argue. I said, is this true? You see, so when I used to show my parents that now, so you could learn a few lessons from the Andersons. They're like, oh, mate, this is what I mean about you. I said, yeah, but you have to, because they look, they're serious. And all their kids are functional. There's not no real black sheep. So I said, imagine.
Well, it sounds like that was a healed family, and they knew how to regulate their emotions. Not all of us gets that chance, isn't it?
Now, to be fair, my father-in-law, he come from a house where the mum used to, well, not really, not like we used to get beaten, but she corporal punishment was her thing. But it was always without real temper. It was basically, oh, if you do that once, twice, this is what will happen. And to be fair, he had a good nature, and he's a grafter as well. So yeah, so that's the case. The my mother-in-law now that they're brought up like how I was brought up, and worse. So I can see why there's thing there. So she got someone that was from that kind of background where it's kind of copacetic, and there was no real problems like that in terms of the discipline, the harsh discipline. But she took up with him, and he's got a stable mind, not really temperamental or have any temper, don't really get in trouble on the street. So, and they made it. Mm. They made it. So yeah, so they opened up my eyes because a few in their circle are like that on my woman's side. That there's families that there might be like mental health issues or self-esteem issues, things like that, but never the handiness or viciousness against the parents. And there's a whole lead. Like I went to a 50th anniversary. Imagine this couple, one of my woman's parents' friends, have been married longer than I've been alive. And they were celebrating it on her birthday just two or three Saturdays ago. Yeah, 50 years of marriage. On her birthday, we hired out the Brixton Educational Centre, and they had more people than I had at my wedding. And some of the eulogies that, well, not eulogies, some of the people that were giving speeches about them, because they had about 15 people give speeches. And it was all integrity, love from day one, have their little misdemeanors, but they made it through. And you can see there's no real resentment, they're pure joy. So I said, right, so these things do happen. So that's why it's careful not to be in the echo chamber, because sorrow and misery, you find sorrow and misery, trauma bonding. But when you step outside the box, like me with the campaign work, I used to think, you know what? Why is it always, men effing up the family? When I was younger, yeah, with the running around and that and the mistreatment. But then when I started to do the campaign work, and obviously I had the troubles with my own son, I said, wait a minute. A lot of that is generalizations. You don't always go like that. There's no universal truth in this thing. Mm. And I've seen people had it worse than me, much worse. I said, is that possible? I said, yeah, geez, I wasn't being imaginative enough. And then I've seen people that have had supreme upbringings where like they're building a dynasty, generation after generation. Tradesman, fishmonger. Children inherit that business. They listen to their parents, not being rebellious. They don't have no rebellious phase. Follow that. Progress financially. Then the grandparents, grandchildren. There's little money from the grandparents and the parents come to them and property. And they don't do it as a thing like, oh, competition or like you must think you'll be out. It's like kind of love and caring and empathy. And then they followed it through. So Jesus, so why are certain families like 3, 4 generations are doing that? And they're well-rounded, they don't have much mental baggage, and they're progressive and well off. But then there's others that it's through hardship, so they're mean and tight and miserable because of what they had to suffer to get their little quatty that they get. And then they pass it on to kids like, well, you're gonna have to fight for our love, or unless you do this at school, that's the only reason why I'm interested in you. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, you know what? I don't want to much to do with you. As soon as I can look after myself, that's all right. You live your own life, I live mine. And then there's others where it's just total care in the community stuff, sexual corruption, molestation, but still having more kids. Child services don't step in, social services don't step in. And then it's like a tale of woe, discarded, empty things. So there's all types. And I've noticed it can come in any situation, married or single. So obviously from the data and research, they said the two-parent homes is most likely to have better outcomes. But there's still quite a few, especially when you consider the world population, 7 billion? There's still quite a few from two-parent households that still struggle to raise rounded children, depending on how the mentality and the culture of the home is. and the love in the home. Mm. So yeah, that's what we have to contend with. So what would you do then, Crystal? What would you do to make things
Me.
outside of having more dads around?
Um, I'm a firm believer of what's it like well-being. So where did I take my son years ago? I can't remember that place. Manhood, I think it was.
Okay.
Manhood Academy.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and do you know what? I was the things that they were implementing, it's for kids that didn't have fathers. So I agreed with that program. I don't know what's happened now. Obviously, my son's older, etc. But things like that is really important. Again, it just goes back to community, mindfulness, teaching children mindfulness, how to regulate their emotions, healing. We don't have enough of these. I think in COVID, what happened? One of the most important people was psychologists because mental health was rife. You know, so I think for me, what I'm trying to do with the Gambian children is, and the deaf people here, the deaf children, is catch them early and teach
Mm,
them. So hopefully it will stop all of this because I do agree that men get the blame a lot of the times for children ending up, effed up. Also equally as like single mothers. But if it was me, what I would do, thinking of my childhood, there was a lot of community spaces for us. Do you remember? I don't know if you
yeah, of
had it.
course. Yeah, I used to go youth club. Yes, do you remember?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Youth clubs.
Mm,
Youth. That generation was different, and family, grandparents. Now we don't
more
have that.
involved.
Look at the count. Look at the buildings that are going up. One bedroom properties. That's not very.
Mm, yeah, that's not
Oh,
family
sorry,
oriented.
one second. Sorry, I just got a call.
That's all right.
Yeah, for me, I just think counselling for parents and children. Because I was a young parent, I didn't know what I was doing when I had my son at 17. I didn't even have a clue, to be honest. Then I had my mum, who was deaf. Everything
Yeah, I
was learnt
remember.
behavior. Yeah, everything's learnt behavior. I only knew the basics. So if I think about if my grandparents were there, and then I had that, more of a community space, then maybe things would have been different, and even a father in the home. But again, you just stated you could have a father in the home, but he could be away. So
Mm.
what do we do? Like,
I'd say that. To be fair, even though my dad was a grafter and he weren't really emotionally available, it's a bit odd. He did have some golden nuggets with the wisdom about life. He never practiced it, but he preached it serious. So that was a good basis for me as well. And it depends if you run
mm.
with it, because people can tell you things, you don't listen. What can you do?
Yeah, but it's hard, Sean. Look at the system that we're living in.
Mm,
Everyone's very distracted. No one's got time for family, even though, we want to have time for our children and time for relationships and friendships. But everybody's trying to just either pay mortgage, literally survive, you
mm,
know? So it's all good me saying, oh, this should come in, but will it change? We're going against social media now. Look what they're putting out in social media. That's a form of indoctrination, brainwashing,
mm.
So for me, I would love to just reset and go back to the 80s. For me, that was a
You
really good
would?
time for me. No, for
Yeah,
real, playing
yeah,
out. When I speak
yeah.
to some kids these days, they're like, what's playing out? What? We're speaking a different language, just to go out and be free, and just the old days for me was better, to be honest. Now, I don't know, Sean. Even if I was to bring in workshops and try and implement certain things with these kids, would it work? You got Black Lives Matter. People been marching for years. There's still racism is
Mm,
still there.
exactly.
You're
You
talking about
genuinely,
bringing
that's
up
where I go.
awareness. It's
Mm,
it's it's still there. So what
mm,
needs to change? For me, I say we have to get out of the system, get out the matrix, because it's designed to break us. This is why
mm,
we
mm,
why we're here. Why we're
mm.
going through this.
No, no, I agree. I agree. The system has a big part to play with that. Consumption, consumer spending,
Yeah.
the high expectations without the knowledge of how to get it. Like for instance, look, I started to do this YouTube thing. I thought, oh, I'll do a bit of graph, upload a certain amount of videos on a regular basis, and eventually it would just snowball like that. I
Hmm.
see thing about search engine optimization, doing thumbnails, um, strategy techniques, and like kind of like
Yeah.
sales. I said, no, I never knew. Geez, so I have to be sitting down and doing that, Ross, as well. Then obviously some people said, yeah, Sean, you should do that. I'll watch it. And then I said, oh, yeah, you think? I said, no, 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 you're talking that preaching thing. Or no, no, them topics there, I don't really cover that. Like, look, what my god brother, he's like, oh, he rather do the boxing. He don't want to do stuff like this, even though he's 32. So I said, look, fam, you got a lot of experience. Oh, yeah, yeah, but I don't think I want to get involved in all that. So I said, yeah, but then he said, you saying this is part of the problem, we can be part of the solution. Yeah, yeah. So it's mad. Then you got some people say, "Yeah, Sean, I like what you're doing, but I could never come on and or do a workshop, anything like that. It's too much." Or like you said, the time poor. Which I said, yeah, that's what they want. I said, you check how much time you're rage baiting on social media and gossip stuff, and cut that time in half. You'd be surprised what you can do. Even the other day, one of them said, "Oh yeah, well, I'm busy." I said, "Listen, I'm telling you, you ain't busier than me, fam. I got more children than you. I have to sell the jerk. I have to do this equal start thing." I said, no, they've asked me to be part of a independent advisory group in my area because of the pilot scheme that I hadn't even started yet.
Wow.
Yeah. I said they asked me to go community events. So I said, imagine if I went back to the maintenance now after my leg's better from the surgery. Said, how am I supposed to manage that? I have to kind of do little and often and piecemeal it together. It's how big is your why? Because I said, what I find odd is some of you that ain't doing nothing. I tell you about you ain't got no time. But you can do your tampy. You can run around the street. You can watch people online and said who is the latest fashion or what's the latest song. Yeah, it's odd, especially as adults. And they said, "Oh, well, not everyone has the same capacity." I said, "I understand that. So if you
Mm.
ain't got the same capacity, don't go on like you're a big time Charlie then, or Miss Bowley. Yeah, it don't make any sense. There's always opinionaires about what you're doing. Yeah, so yeah, there's look what you're doing, Crystal, with the deaf people and
Yeah,
your
but Sean,
organization.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm tired. I'm tired.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
But you still got your
it's not
kids as
easy.
well, your other responsibilities. My cousin, he runs how much stores you running now, cuz?
45.
Yeah, and he's
Wow.
just he's just had his son, and he comes on this with me on Sunday. Imagine, I got people that I come up with, they're not doing nothing day to day, and then they say, "Nah, an hour on a Sunday, hour and a half on a Sunday, it's too much." Even there's one man that I went on, the Christmas special with China 2 Christmases ago, cuz I don't
Yeah.
think you've seen it, Crystal. Yeah, he told me today, Sean, nah, that thing, I have to probably do a podcast for my own home, be like build a home studio. I said, yeah, your removal business, yeah, you do what, Monday to Saturday? He said, yeah, yeah, but most time I keep it to the Friday so I can have my children. So, fam, I seen you do pop the balloon with China. So if you can go on there pop the balloon with that trans man that I see you with that time and mocking the man and that, and then going on to other shows like when they're throwing that pen. What's that game they used to throw the penny against the wall and it's whoever bounces back?
Money up.
Yeah, yeah. So I said, if you can do that and be going to Dominica Republic every 3 or 4 months. Surely you can do an hour on a Sunday. But it's not even every week.
Yeah,
Twice.
but Sean, you got to accept some people really that they'll say they're here for the cause, but they really don't care.
Yeah, there you go.
And
There
this
you
is
go.
why, you have to seek out your tribe,
Exactly.
like-minded people.
Mm,
And I grew up as Jehovah's Witness. I'm not one now, but I really believe 144,000, that stood out to me. 144,000. Now I can dissect that as 144,000. Are they the chosen ones here to do God's work?
mm.
I
I
believe
remember that.
there's a lot of NCPs that are just put here to distract you from your journey. So
Mm,
don't waste your time on those type of people. Just keep doing it, plant a seed, and hopefully, we start waking people up, because I believe the majority and I saw this in COVID, that
Mm,
there's a lot of sheep. There's a lot of sheep,
hmm
and
hmm
there's not a lot of critical thinkers, not a
That's
lot of
right.
leaders. There's only a small number of us, you know.
It's true. It's true. It's true. But like you said, people get bogged down because I've seen people who are smarter than me, more talent than that. I said, listen, you should be flying. You should be big time in life. But like you said, the lack of steel and durability when they get hit by life's problems.
Mm.
Mm. I remember one time Kingsley told me, said, Sean, I don't know how you're going through out of hospital when you had surgery on your shoulder. You're going to get your eldest in the snow. I said, yeah, because when he gets older, and when I look in his eye and tell him his father's a serious man, he must know, he must believe that more than
Mm.
he believe in Jesus. Said, my old man weren't like that, or my dad's dad, he weren't like that. My mum's dad was kind of like that, but more in terms of the work and the progress, not particularly with emotional availability and riding with his children. Because once he moved to Jamaica, he just felt that everyone should come and see him. The most you'll get is his wife would ring twice a month on a Sunday. So that was it. Unless we went out there, he weren't really ramping with us. So I said, yeah. So I said, the way I see it, I'm that guy. You see it. So when I hear family talk, I said, there's not much one people in my family that can chat to me. No way, not when it comes to this family thing. But sometimes, they think, oh, that's too much high expectations, too much. I said, look, if I can't have that of my own flesh and blood, what saved more people out of the street? But then I found people like Sally, like Kingsley, yeah, like Hannah O'Neill. I said, right, you don't even know me. I haven't even done nothing for you. And then you're prepared to do this and that just because of what I say about what I want in life and like my vision of how things are supposed to be. So yeah, sometimes the friends is the family you choose, and the strangers are more willing to help you than your own.
Mm.
But going back to that fella, he said he was going to come on. He messaged me on Instagram a few hours. I said, "Yeah, sure. You know what? I'm overthinking it. It's true. 2 hours a month. Of course, I can manage that." So there you go. But he's not on though. Mm,
Yeah, but life happens, innit? Things
mm.
happen. You've been telling me for ages, and I've just joined today,
Yeah, that's all right.
you know. And
Mm.
I'm not at home doing nothing. It's just priorities, you know. But now I've said no. I've got a bit of time, you know. Let me see
Yeah, of
what's going
course.
on. And I'm proud of the things you're doing, Sean. Honestly, and I really seeing this getting bigger and bigger. And that's what it is. It's just getting the word out there, raising awareness, and hopefully, change will happen.
Yeah, hopefully. No, to be fair, all the doom and gloom and echo chamber stuff. I see things every day because what I try to do on the feed and that so social media, like I see something, a 14-year-old made a bar of soap that kind of helps with skin cancer. I saw one
Okay.
African man made a solar car that's got a bigger range than petroleum, but they're trying to buy the intellectual property so it doesn't go to commercial market. Yeah, it's serious. I see something the other day where they said they revived the one coral reef barrier and how this kid made a thing that can attract plastic in the oceans and things like this. So yeah. Like where the people that funded me for Equal Star, this the kind of lead director for Merton Bain Voice, she gave me and my kids £100 for Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah, you see. So I said, yeah, off the jump. Asked me to come to community award. Yeah. She never had to. It's not like I was her family or was doing anything to her for her before. I used to just come to the meetings and complain about, oh, Merton need to do this. Merton Bain Voice is not fit to function. I don't see what you
Mm.
do in the community day to day. And she said, oh, you seem to be quite rebellious and talking a lot. Why don't you do something then? I said, yeah, I will. And she said, all right, send me a proposal. So yeah, there's always progressive people. Where there's dark, there's always light. It's
Mm.
just that the light people don't seem to connect together often enough, where the dark people do. Mm. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do with this. Obviously, is stop, look, and listen. Connect the people that are about it, and they're serious. I said, look, instead of working in silos, why don't we work collaboratively?
Mhm.
Mm. Because I said the wicked people and the simple people they do that. Yeah. So why don't we do that more? Why is it? So what I noticed with that though, like you said, time, ego, clash of values. Yeah, or there's no synergy. So I said, yeah, but if we want to make the world better and have better outcomes for families and in terms of socio-economic progress, so we need to do more and we need to practice what we preach. That's the only way it's going to change. So remember, they don't need that much. I showed someone the other day. 82 people followed Fidel Castro to Cuba in the 50s. 8 years later, they had taken over the nation.
Oh, wow.
80 in the century we were born. When my parents were like, my daughter's age now. In their lifetime, that's happened. Yeah. So it's possible. 82 people took over entire nation. They went to Cuba with him and he still got Che Guevara. And they said, my goodness. I remember when Kay bought me the Motorcycle Diaries and the Benicio del Toro film around it. And then I watched the documentary. I said, geez, that man that Jay-Z used to wear on his shirt. I said, I used to think, who is that? They said, it's Che Guevara, man. I said, my goodness. And then obviously I see Mandela's thing with the ANC. I said, my goodness. Man was in Robben Island and then man become leader of South Africa. In my lifetime. Yeah, so it's possible.
It's about consistency, isn't it? Consistency.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it's little and often.
And also, again, practicing what you preach.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, seriously. So, cuz, what would you do then? What would you do there? Because you've been quiet. What would you do? Yeah, I see it's coasting. What would you do to make the world a better place then and reduce violence against women and girls and make sure that families have enough money so they don't have to be always fighting against time for the shekels to keep, the little they have going without collapsing?
And you're on mute, by the way.
Good shout. I don't even know what I would change. Obviously, I've looked at my family dynamic and there's a lot of things I just don't like. So I've tried to do things differently with my son. Obviously, my son's only 9 months old, or 10 months next week. So I know what I want to do with him is going to be completely different to how my dad would do with me or my parents would do with me. Like, my mum wasn't a bad mum, but there's a lot of things that she could have done a bit better. But again, similar to what you were saying earlier, Sean, about the parent dynamic, where it's like the mum had to do everything and the dad just had the back seat. So similar to how my dad was. So he would do what he was doing. He's a grafter. He will do what he's got to do, but he wasn't there emotionally. He had to be. So I'm making sure that with my son, I'm making sure that I'm there for him emotionally. So when I see you get frustrated when he can't pick up the little toy, or I'm there like encouraging him, and then he gets it. You know what I'm saying? Just little things like that I'll just try and do with him. So I'm making sure that I'm around and making sure that I'm emotionally available for him, especially. So about what to do in the grand scheme of things, it's difficult. Everyone's different, as you're saying. So yeah, you can put things in place now, but will people go out and do that when they're turned 16, 17, 18, when they leave school and they're just going to do what they've got to do? But if I want to go back to like the main problem with like parenthood, I still feel like if people use sex as something where you actually are going to recreate rather than use it for pleasure, I think that will be a massive change as well. I think a lot of people just have sex for the sake of having sex and not really worried about who you're sleeping down with, and obviously you don't know their character fully if you're sleep with someone at the first night and then you got pregnant and then you're moving and then you have to do the kid by yourself. You know what I'm saying? So there's certain things like that I think you need to look at as well.
Now, to be fair, you've lived that. You remember you're one of the disciplined ones in our family. You're serious.
Yeah, exactly.
You never play with that.
Yeah, I made sure I didn't want to be having kids with anyone. You know what I'm saying? So I made sure I settled down and waited long enough, like to make sure I didn't go through that trauma.
Yeah, but sorry, can I ask? So where did that mentality come from?
I think it's just seeing certain dynamics in just the world and just seeing certain people and thinking like, why are you thinking like that? Or why is things like that? Why is the dad not around? Why is that? Then obviously you hear the mums saying, oh, is he the whatless man? I was like, but you slept with him. So you can't have been that whatless.
Oh, you can't say that. Can't say that. Whatless dad, you slept with him. So what about if there's no dad in the home? For me, right, this is how, I feel if I had my dad and he was a nurturing dad,
Yeah.
then I would know how to select a man properly. Take that dad out the home.
Yeah.
I don't know what to select. I don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I hear you. I hear you.
So when, because I say my one's whatless, but at the time, I didn't know. Coming from a single parent family, also not having the tools to ascertain what is a good man, what is a whatless man, what's not a whatless man. I didn't know the signs. Nobody taught me. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
I
you're
get
smart,
you.
Crystal.
But
You're
again,
smart.
that's a recycle thing, though, isn't it? If you go back to your mum or your grandparents, where it get come down to, it comes down to that. So if if they had that thinking from the beginning, choosing the right partner, then that will follow on through generations, right? So I'm also not blaming you for terms of you not able to pick your partner or whatever it may be, but
Mm.
again, it's just a cycle.
Hmm.
So you have to go back to where where it's like, okay, that didn't work in that household, which is why you couldn't pick the right man or whatever it may be,
Hmm.
and then obviously they will take it from there. But I understand that dynamic of like you don't know what is the right man, but then maybe I don't know, maybe maybe your mum could be like, okay, this is the
Or
type
your
of man you don't
friends,
look for.
No,
auntie.
my mum again. So I don't know. I'm not trying to make
Yeah,
excuses.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, of
just trying
course.
to understand. My mum didn't really have the capability. Okay, so I grew up going to school, having a piece of homework, say, Mum, can you explain this to me? I don't understand. I don't understand. Even when my body changed, trying to have a deep conversation with my mum, there was a limit, you know? And then you go to your grandparents, your granddad, oh, I don't want to talk about certain things. Then my grandmother lived in Germany. So for me, I would say I didn't have the proper guidance. Now, if I had that, maybe I would have selected a better partner or a better father of my kids,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. But it's all learnt behaviour. Like my mum, single parent, my dad wasn't around, so I can see the pattern. So my daughter's dad, he's around. Would I say he's a waste? Yes. But he's done a lot more than what my dad's done, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I
And
get that.
So
again,
there's
you
been
have to,
improvement. There's been improvement.
Or
yeah, there's been improvement. There's
did
been
he have
improvement.
a single parent household himself?
His mum died when he was very young.
Okay, so yeah, that's a different dynamic.
Yeah, his mum died when he was really young. So again, his selection of women. Even me, when I was younger, looking back, I wouldn't tell my son to go out with a girl like me in my younger days. But
See,
now I'm
at least you
older.
look. That's a
Yeah,
serious thing,
yeah,
though,
that's a good
Crystal.
thing though. That's a good
That's a
thing. Yeah,
serious thing.
yeah, that's a good
This is
thing.
why you need to come to the workshops because you can say that as a grown woman.
Yeah,
You know how much we have women say, no, no, you're out of order.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
take off my makeup. You're embarrassing me. I've got big open
yeah,
pores. No, I'm not having you tell me that. No, no, no. Looking for an excuse. Look. Imagine you can say that full chest on
yeah, of
head,
course, of
and
course.
some women only say it behind closed door when they're sad or there's people watch. A lot of them, they would. A lot of ones that I meet would never admit that. They're always
yeah,
like, "Oh, would you want your daughter to have a man like you?" But I said, when I say, "Would you want your son to have a woman like you?" A lot of
No,
them quibble
no,
about it.
no
You're
way,
one of
no
three
way.
women that I've ever known to say that, and
Mm,
only one that say it in front of other people.
mm. I know how I was as a young girl. I'll be honest. I wouldn't say I was wicked, but I wouldn't have wished me or my worst enemy. I I believe, that Crystal was a different version of myself. That I believe, I can't explain it. But it's like that's the little girl in me. I'm now a big woman looking at the younger version of me, and she was terrible, reckless. So no, I wouldn't want my son going. I even tell my son, sorry to say this, but stay away from certain light skinned girls. Real talk. I'm light skinned
You see,
myself,
you see.
you know. We had this certain complex, which by the way, I feel like you men feed into. That makes our ego even
No,
more
I didn't.
bigger.
I didn't. I didn't. I didn't.
I said some men, some men,
Yeah, I'm
you
just saying
know,
I didn't. I had all
some
types. I
men,
had all types. Yeah.
you know. But nah, I can say, I can put my hands up and say no. For me, unhealed version of Crystal. I'm not even fully healed right now, but I know a lot more. And a lot of people don't like me because I'm real. If you're a woman, like a lot of women are feminists. Oh, this. If I don't agree and it doesn't make sense to me, I'm not going to be on your side. Same thing with a man. I'm not going to be on your side. I just go with sense, you know. So yeah. Sorry, I've kind of gone off track a bit.
No.
No,
Listen, that's
that's
a good
good.
thing. We
Like,
need that.
yeah, we
That's
need it.
gold.